the kind of situation, unwanted situation that is developing in our neighborhood. One may say that, after all, Bangladesh is another country. Why are you bothered so much about it? Isn't it tantamount to interference in the affairs of a sovereign country? Of course, we respect the sovereign identity, authority of our neighbor. But when we talk about our neighbors, whether it is Bangladesh or other neighbors, it's not just, the question is not just about that so-called sovereignty. Beyond that exists a very strong emotional bond that connects all of us. Because after all, we were all one people. We continue to be one people. We may have different countries. We may belong to different countries. Our nationalities may be different. But we belong to a great civilizational history and culture for millennia, and that bond continues to flow in the blood of each one of us, whether you are in India or in Bangladesh. It is that sentiment which causes more concern. When we hear that some temples are destroyed, or when we hear that Hindus are being subjected to persecution, or other minorities are facing problems, it causes that pain, that concern. It's not interference. We also have some kind of a right, I would say. I just mentioned that we celebrated our Independence Day just yesterday. That independence which happened 78 years ago on the 15th of August of 1947 came with vivisection of our country. India was partitioned on that day. Midnight of 14th August was when India was divided into Hindustan and Pakistan. We never accepted that proposition which became the basis for that partition. The proposition was that Hindus and Muslims were two different peoples, they were two different nations, hence they should have two different countries. This was the proposition of Muhammad Ali Jinnah. We said no. Our religions may be different. For that matter, in this country, there always existed enormous freedom for religions. We celebrated religious diversity. We not just tolerated. That is what Swami Vivekananda told in the World Parliament of Religions in 1893 at Chicago. He said, I come from a country which not only tolerates, but accepts the diversity, religious diversity. Not only accepts, it celebrates this diversity. Utsav manate hai hum is diversity ka. Hence, many religions flourished on the soil. Many are indigenous religions. Some came from outside. But we never differentiated. We said we are all one people. You may worship any God. You may not worship God also. So we never accepted that proposition which created two countries at that time, that partition. When we said that, some people ridiculed us. But within 25 years, what we warned at that time proved right. Religion could not hold Pakistan as one nation. That country got again divided into Pakistan and Bangladesh in 1971. Why it happened? You know, by the way, I don't know how many of you know, Bangladesh, I'm a political science student. For a political scientist, Bangladesh is the first nation state in Asia. A nation state created on the identity of a language. Otherwise, nation states are a familiar history in Europe. But in our neighborhood, first nation state is Bangladesh. Otherwise, we are all civilizational states. Our national identity is very civilizational. Not going into the detail. It's a very political type of discussion. But right from the day Pakistan was created in 1947, people of East Bengal, which became a part of Pakistan at that time in 1947, were subjected to enormous oppression, enormous humiliations. It's a Bengali-speaking region. In 1948, Pakistan declared Urdu as the national language for everybody. The East and West, everywhere only Urdu will be taught. The Bengalis stood up against this oppression of their language. When I say Bengalis stood up, that included Muslims, but also millions and millions of Hindu Bengalis. They all fought together. In 1958, the name of East Bengal was changed into East Pakistan. Even that Bengal name was eradicated. Again, Bengali people fought back against the oppression of the West Pakistani leadership. Again, Hindus and Muslims together fought for it. And the worst happened in 1970, when elections happened to that Pakistan's Legislative Assembly, National Parliament. Awami League, which originally was raised in eastern part of the country, which is East Bengal, which was East Bengal and which was called East Pakistan, secured majority of the seats. But the leadership of West Pakistan said, no, we can't give power to East Pakistanis, despite the fact that they had simple majority. That's when again the people of Bengal, East Bengal, rose against the oppression of Pakistan, West Pakistani leadership. Now we hear the name of Mujibur Rahman. He is called Bangabandhu. He was the leader of this resistance movement from East Bengal. Bangabandhu was in jail. He was put in jail in 1969 itself. There was no leader for this movement. And all the major countries in the world were supporting Pakistan for their own reasons. The Americans were trying to befriend China, befriend Mao. General Yahya Khan, who was the dictator of Pakistan, was midwifing that meeting, that link between Nixon and Mao. Hence, America decided we will not interfere in these atrocities that these people, the West Pakistanis, are committing against the Bengalis. America remained silent. China was anyway a friend of Pakistan. China remained silent. Pakistan was a member of the Organization of Islamic Conference, OIC. Islamic world remained silent. There was nobody to stand up for the rights of Bengalis, whether it was Muslims or Hindus. Do you know who stood up at that time? India. We were the only country who stood by the side of these Bengali people when they were fighting for their language, they were fighting for their identity, they were fighting for their political rights. We stood by them. Whole world was against them. India stood by them. We were responsible in a way for giving them that courage to fight back the oppression of the Pakistani army in 1971. They created something called Mukti Bahini. Because it is now a part of history, I'm saying it openly. Otherwise, we never say these things openly. But Mukti Bahini was, of course, indirectly or directly encouraged by the then leadership, then people of our country. Don't we have a right to be concerned about what is happening there today? A country in whose birth we midwifed. We played the role. So it is not interference. It is a concern of a people who always were the well-wishers of the people of Bangladesh. May I tell you, when Bangladesh was being created, the Pakistan's brutal army, it played havoc in East Bengal, which later became Bangladesh. It killed millions of people. It is said that almost 3 million people were killed. But among those 3 million were tens of thousands of Hindus also. So Bangladesh is always a product of that Bengali pride, which both the Hindus and Muslims of Bangladesh shared as a common ancestral identity and pride. That is the reason why we feel sad when we hear that the Hindus who were integral to the very rise, very identity, very rise of Bangladesh, they were integral. When they get subjected to this kind of atrocities that we hear today, we feel concerned. Today, the interim head of the interim administration, Nobel laureate, Muhammad Yunus, telephoned to our Prime Minister. Because our Prime Minister raised this concern yesterday in his Independence Day speech from the ramparts of the Red Fort. So he received a telephone call from Muhammad Yunus, the interim administration's head of the administration, from Bangladesh today, assuring that the minorities, Hindus and other minorities, their interests, their physical interests and their assets will be protected. We hope that there will be enough steps taken. Because this has become a sort of a daily routine in Bangladesh, unfortunately. Bangladesh is, as an independent nation, it has completed 5 decades already. But if you see the history of those 5 decades, you come across numerous instances when the minorities are subjected to atrocities for no reason. Always extraneous reasons. For example, last year, in 2023, Durga Puja pandals were attacked. You know, in Bangladesh, for those who probably are not aware of the ground reality, I'm just sharing some information. The 2022 census says there are 13 million, almost 14 million Hindus in that country, 1.4 crore Hindus in Bangladesh. All over the country, but concentrated in 4 or 5 districts in large numbers, but otherwise all over the country. And generally speaking, in the last 15 years, especially ever since Madam Sheikh Hasina's government came to power in 2009, generally speaking, Hindus enjoyed relative freedom to practice their religion. There used to be Durga Puja celebrations every year. Something like 30 to 35,000 pandals used to be erected. And even government used to, not government, Awami League leaders used to support those pandals. And government used to provide security to big pandals also. But there always existed an element, a fundamentalist element in that country, which would somehow find an opportunity to harass the minorities. One such occasion was last year, when almost 300 pandals were attacked. Thousands of houses were attacked, shops were attacked for no reason. Just you are celebrating your, Hindus are celebrating their Navratra. Attacks happen. Go back in the history, you will come across many such instances. Maybe on some occasions they had a spark, like, in 1992 when Ayodhya incident happened. After that, large-scale vandalism happened. Almost 1,000 temples were attacked. So this almost became a kind of a routine in that country. There are instances of leaders trying to control this also. Let's not assume that, there's nobody is doing anything there. No, it's not like that. There were efforts being made by leadership. For example, I mentioned about Sheikh Hasina. The parliament which was, whose tenure was over in January this year, a new parliament came into existence in January this year, which was now abrogated. But in that parliament, previous parliament, there were 18 Hindu members of parliament, out of which 17 came from Awami League. Chief Justice of Bangladesh Supreme Court was a Hindu for 3 years. 10% of police officers are Hindus. 7.5% of administration are Hindus. In that sense, Bangladesh is different from Pakistan. Yet, there always existed these forces, which just need an opportunity to harass, oppress the minority Hindus. When I say Hindus, sometimes even Buddhists are subjected to similar atrocities. Even Christians are subjected to similar atrocities. This is that element of Islamic fundamentalists who sometimes exploit the situation and create this kind of situation in the country. And one such occasion was the month-long student agitation in Bangladesh. The agitation had different objectives. I would say that agitation was completely an internal matter of Bangladesh. There was an issue over reservations, which many students felt was politically motivated. So they wanted it to be that kind of a reservation to be removed. Bangladesh always had various types of reservations. Bangladesh always had reservation for minorities. 5% seats in every system in Bangladesh are reserved for minorities. Because that's the reason why I said today there are 7% Hindus in the administration, 10% in police force. How did they come up? Because there is a reservation system for minorities, which is generally utilized by the minorities, and Hindus being the largest minority. But there are other provisions, like there is a 30% reservation for what is called Mukti Yodhas. Mukti Yodhas are those who fought for the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971. 71, 3 generations have passed. This 3rd or 4th generation is there now. If you talk about students. So there is a resentment that this is only a political reservation. Mukti Yodhas means Awami League cadres. So 30% you are giving directly to one party, please don't do that. That was the agitation. It was not against reservation for minorities, or there is a 5% reservation for women. It was not against that. So it was a students' movement, probably handled in a manner that instead of, dissipating, it got aggravated, resulted in the leadership stepping down and finding asylum in neighboring countries. But then in this situation also, those very forces, the fundamentalist elements, tried to exploit, tried to attack innocents. some apologists started saying that no, they only attacked Awami League supporters. But in Dhaka, there are instances where Hindu academics, well-placed artists, film personalities went and participated in the student movement, supporting the students, returned home to find their houses vandalized. Just because somebody identified those houses to be belonging to minorities, Hindus. It is that element which needs strict control. We are not here to blame the entire community. Sometimes we get carried away by, these days that new university called WhatsApp University. We sometimes get carried away. No reason to blame the entire country. Although, of course, when we have concerns about the country only. We don't know who is doing it. We are not in a position to identify those individuals. We only expect that the leadership takes measures to curb these elements. Past also the experiences, that is where this one last point I mentioned in close, that is where sometimes we worry more is that while even Sheikh Hasina's government tackled other types of vociferous forces very strictly, like for example, Sheikh Hasina government in 15 years sent almost a dozen senior leaders to gallows, Jamaat-e-Islami leaders to gallows. They were hanged to death for the role, pro-Pakistan role they played in 1971. Or the atrocities perpetrated against Bengalis that included Hindus and Muslims in 1971. 71 atrocities were perpetrated. Even after 40 years, they were tried and sent to the gallows. There was a terror attack in 2016 in Dhaka on a cafe where many foreigners used to visit. There was a bomb attack. In that bomb blast, 21 people died, out of which 16 were foreigners. The target was the foreigners. ISIS-style attack. Sheikh Hasina's government immediately moved with alacrity, immediately arrested 7 people. All the 7 were hanged. We feel happy. Yeah, here is someone who has the courage to take on the radicals, take on the terrorists. But the problem is, those who killed Hindus, those who destroyed their temples, we don't hear about them getting any punishment. That assurance that those who perpetrate this kind of vandalism, this kind of terror, will also be punished strictly is what everybody expects. You see, bad people, criminals exist in societies. Existence of criminals is not actually any barometer to gauge the goodness or badness of a society. The barometer is the punishment. Will they be punished or will they go scot-free? It is on that we expect Bangladesh government to do more. After all, like students' movement, security of their citizens is also an internal matter. Of course, we totally agree. But as I said, as emotionally bounded society, one people, we have feelings. We have feelings. That's why we supported Bangladesh when 1 million Rohingyas descended on that country, created a major, economic crisis for Bangladesh. India stepped forward and extended 2 shiploads of relief material was sent to Bangladesh. We should pay them. We didn't say it's your internal matter. These refugees are your internal matter. We didn't say that. We said, oh no, you have a problem, we are there. In the same spirit we are saying, take care of Everybody. And especially the minorities, who always felt that they are an integral part of that country. You know, today also there are 1.4 crore Hindus in Bangladesh. Imagine, why are they there? Why did they not decide simply to just cross over? Okay, today we built a fence, but there was no fence until 10 years ago. But still they did not come over. I can give you any number of instances. In 2016, we made an agreement with Bangladesh by which we exchanged certain enclaves. What happened at the time of the partition was, certain enclaves which belonged to Bangladesh remained in India. Now, for example, this area JP Nagar. Suppose if I say JP Nagar belonged to Andhra Pradesh, you will laugh at it, right? How can JP Nagar belong to Andhra Pradesh? It is right in the middle of Bangalore, no? But a situation existed where 100 and such enclaves, 60 in Bangladesh, small enclaves, there were people living there. They were Indian enclaves. Telephone se lekar, post se lekar, sarpanch se lekar, everybody is to be appointed by Indian system. But they were inside Bangladesh. 35 to 40 such enclaves belonging to Bangladesh inside India. Because it's a long history, I won't go into it, because Nawabs were to exchange their territories. While exchanging, a Nawab donated some territory to a Hindu. The territory originally belonged to Nawab, but he donated to Hindu in Calcutta. Calcutta became India. The enclave belonged to Bangladesh. So much of that confusion existed. We decided we should end this confusion. So we decided to exchange. Whatever enclaves are there, if it is Jayanagar is in Karnataka, it goes to Karnataka. If Gorantla is today in Karnataka, it should belong to Andhra Pradesh, it will go to Andhra Pradesh. One time settlement we did in 2016. First time Modi ji took the courage to do that. Let us settle this issue. That time we gave an offer. Suppose there are Indian enclaves in Bangladesh. They were all mostly Hindus living there. We told them, you see, we are giving this territory to Bangladesh. If you want to come over to this side, India side, come over, we will give you citizenship. 99% refused to come. They said, no, Bangladesh is our country. We lived here for centuries, for decades. We want to continue here. We never bothered whether this enclave belonged to India or Bangladesh. We lived in Bangladesh, part of Bangladesh. We want to continue here. Friends in Bangladesh should remember that. That is how every Hindu is committed 100% to Bangladesh identity. He has as much pride about their Bengali identity, Bengali culture, as any other Bangladeshi Muslim is. Hence, the treatment that is meted out to them should be taken very seriously. We sincerely hope that the student movement, which has spearheaded a major transformation in that country, will keep all these things in mind. I must register an element of appreciation for the students also, that there were any number of instances when the leaders of this movement, the movement against the leadership of the time, took a lot of initiative to protect temples. Those who came forward to protect temples, protect Hindu houses and all, included even imams of masjids. There will be good people and bad people everywhere. There were enough good people who came forward and tried to do their bit. Of course, in some cases they succeeded, in some cases they could not succeed. Dhakeshwari temple in Dhaka has been protected by people there. Such instances give us confidence that yes, there are challenges for minorities in Bangladesh, but there is no reason to think that they cannot live there or anything. We only will be happy to see that those culprits who indulge in this kind of, very heinous activity are brought to book or punished appropriately. Friends, we wish the new government of Bangladesh, new administration of Bangladesh, a success in its endeavors. Bangladesh has progressed so much. It's a phase where they are facing a turmoil. We hope that they come out of this turmoil fast and have their own government. And, Bangladesh was created on the principles of, Bengali identity, secularism, and democracy. We hope that like India, how we flourished on these principles through a constitution, Bangladesh also continues to cherish these ideals, continues to flourish based on those ideals. Thank you for your patient listening.